Alright, it's that time of the year for me to do my top 10 best and worst movies of 2012. With every top 10 best list will come a top 10 worst list, that comes next, but for now I'm going to give you my top 10 best list. Now before I get into this video, I'm just going to say I did not see everything that came out in 2012, so if there's something that is not on here that deserves to be on here, it's probably because I didn't see it. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, coming in at number 10 is Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah, you usually see an animation closer to the bottom of this list. This year it was Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph was a great movie. It followed up on all the video games that you've ever seen, and it gives a lot of video game references that you love. And they pulled this movie off right, and if they were to do a sequel, they could have a really, really, really good franchise like Toy Story. Alright, coming in at number 9 is one of the best acted movies of the year, and that is Daniel Day-Lewis as President Lincoln. Yeah, I was really intrigued in this movie, and I wasn't really expecting to be, but it was a really, really, really good movie, and it kept me entertained throughout the whole thing, and it was very well acted. All the actors were great. Lincoln deserved all the awards that it won. Now it's getting my reward of being number 9 on this top 10 list. Alright, coming in at number 8, thinking about number 8, I was like, okay, if there's any way I can possibly fit this movie on my top 10 list, it will be on my top 10 list. And that was A Cabin in the Woods. Okay, A Cabin in the Woods is not a horror film. It is a movie meant to deconstruct all the horror films you have ever seen to the bone marrow. And it does it very, very well. A Cabin in the Woods is just, it ties together all the horror films that I've ever seen, and I love seeing that in one film. It is great. Cabin in the Woods, number 8. Alright, coming in at number 7 is one of the best sci-fi movies just ever. That movie was Looper. Yeah, Looper happens to be one of the most original sci-fi movies I think I've ever seen. It's not the best, but it's definitely up there, and it's a great movie. It's a great time, a lot of cool action. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis are the best team as actors. And also in this movie, there is a kid actor that steals the entire show. That'll get you a space bumped up, let alone number 7. Alright, number 6 proves that Ben Affleck isn't only a good actor, but he's also a really good director, and that was in Argo. Yes, Argo was surprisingly very, very good. Even though no one gets shot, this movie is one of the most exciting movies that came out in 2012. Yeah, Argo definitely deserves number 6. Alright, we are already at the top 5. These are where the heavy hitters start coming in. Coming in at number 5 is Skyfall. Yeah, they've been trying to find a happy medium to make a good Bond movie like this that has a sort of dark element and a sort of Bond element in it, and they finally did it, and they finally did it very well with Skyfall. Skyfall's got this new dark element thing to it with the same old Bond element that everyone can love. So basically, if you're a Bond fan or if you're a fan of movies at all, Skyfall is definitely worth checking out. Alright, coming in at number 4. I kind of have a funny relationship with this movie because the first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, it was good. And the second time I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is really good. And that was The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. Yes, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey really did, it didn't surprise me by any means, but it was a very, very, very good movie because it brought me back to Middle-earth. I'm hearing a lot of gripes that this movie wasn't as good as Lord of the Rings, and no, it's not as good as Lord of the Rings. But Lord of the Rings being my favorite movies of all time, this is really, really, really hard to live up to those standards. So you know what? The Hobbit is definitely number 4. Alright, coming in at number 3 is Marvel's 4 to 5 year plan with the Avengers. Yeah, I know most of you are surprised to see the Avengers at number 3 on my list, but I can think of about 2 movies that are better than the Avengers, and the Avengers is definitely really, really good. All the characters are relevant, and every scene that each character is in, they each steal the show. And all the characters in the Avengers are great, and for all of them to be great and also have an awesome enemy on top of that, yeah, the Avengers is up there. Alright, number 2 and number 1, I flipped back and forth. I was like, that's number 2, that's number 1, that's number 1, that's number 2. My list had arrows pointing everywhere, cross outs, circles. My list was insane, but coming in at number 2 is Django Unchained. Django Unchained is Quentin Tarantino's best movie, in my opinion. This and Pulp Fiction were great, but Django Unchained is definitely the best. Super brutal, all the characters were likable, relevant, and each of them stole the show in each scene they're in, and it's possible for them to be in one scene together. Django Unchained is just like the best, definitely one of the best movies that came out this year. I wanted to put it at number 1, but my number 1 goes to... Alright, here we are at my number 1. My number 1 is Battleship. I'm just screwing with you. You should have seen the look on your face. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, so you haven't seen this on my list yet, so you're figuring, okay, it's either not on the list at all, or it's just naturally going to be number 1 for being the best movie of 2012. That is The Dark Knight Rises. Yes, my fanboyism is completely showing at this point, but you know what? I don't care. It's my top 10 list. Alright, The Dark Knight Rises was a great movie where all the characters were completely likable. I could understand every word in this movie, and that just made me obligated to put it as my number 1. That's not why it's my number 1, but you know it makes you happy whenever you can. Alright, so now it is time for me to give you some honorable mentions. I didn't tell you this before the video, but I'm giving you some now. Alright, so I'm just going to go through and name all the honorable mentions that I can think of off the top of my head. Alright, so Silver Linings Playbook, The Grey, Chronicle, Sinister, Ted, 21 Jump Street, Lawless, The Amazing Spider-Man, Rise of the Guardians, and even Dredd. Yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. There are more that I liked this year, but those are just the ones that I can think of. Alright, so now I want you to tell me your top 10 favorite list of this year. And there's another thing I want to touch on is Zero Dark 30 is a 2013 movie for me. I did see it and I loved it, so just warning you, it's not on this list because I didn't like it as much as those other movies, but it's not on this list because I didn't see it in 2013. It's not a 2013, it's a 2013 movie for me. Fine, finally. What is your top 10 favorite movies of this year? Comment below, let me know. And if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.